tech giants are getting rid of their protection mechanisms, and more news is being generated by AI. Is trust and safety on the internet a thing of the past? Can we expect our real-world values to apply online? Good evening, my name is Maia Mazurkiewicz, and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. You can find whatever you want on the internet. Just ask the right question and you will get an answer. But how do you know that answer is accurate? Human rights, equality, non-violence and freedom of speech. If we want to build a trustworthy internet, all of these values need to be in place. Do we need a new social contract for the internet? Trust and safety is a term commonly used when we talk about rules for social platforms, communities, and services. It's about making sure that users can trust a platform and feel safe while using it. Meanwhile, some of the world's biggest social media platforms are already getting rid of these mechanisms. Our guest today has been working on trust and safety for years and was part of the team fired by Elon Musk when he took over Twitter.
Maciej Artur Nadzikiewicz, Board of Trustees of the Wikimedia Foundation. Since 2023, Maciej Artur Nadzikiewicz has been a member of the Working Group on Artificial Intelligence, the Internet of Things and Disruptive Technologies, or GRAI, at the Polish Ministry of Digital Affairs. He has been listed by Forbes magazine as 25 under 25 in 2018 and 30 under 30 in 2024. With over 145,000 contributions, edits, and commits, he has first-hand experience analyzing and combating disinformation.
Maciej, thank you so much for coming today. You're representing Wikipedia, and just recently, around Trump inauguration, former Polish Prime Minister been catched by some media saying that he used Wikipedia as a part of his identification for getting into the inauguration.
Hi, Maya. Yes, I did hear the story that he was trying to show his Wikipedia article to some guards to prove that he is what he is saying he is. It's been already proven fake news. However, the fact that it went so viral just proves that people are willing to believe that Wikipedia is the way to prove information if you need it to.
Exactly, but well, with this fake news, a lot of people started to say like, hey, how he could use Wikipedia as part of ID, because not everything that you see in Wikipedia is true, or is it?
Not everything you see anywhere may be true. I've been always saying that Wikipedia, as an encyclopedia, as a book, is a tool. A tool is neither bad nor good by its own. It's the way you use it and the way you have a skill to use it. A perfect example to that is a knife. Alone is just a tool that you can use. You can use it as a weapon, or you can use it to prepare food. Wikipedia offers information to the internauts and all the readers, but it's up to them to verify the sources that we offer to check if the information is actually written there, it's true.
And how do you verify it? Because that's the key. Is it that every single person can go in Wikipedia and write an article around anything that matters?
Apart from very few controversial cases, Wikipedia can be edited by anybody. We can open our computers right now, our telephones, click edit, and do a contribution to Wikipedia, either changing, adding, or removing some text. The way it works, we rely on a critical mass of people, more than 250,000 people each month, adding content to over 300 languages that we have Wikipedia in. Those people add their own changes, they verify a work from others, and once you have information and this change pass through a group of experienced community editors and moderators, this change is visible to everybody on the internet.
So it's like you don't need to be a part of the Wikipedia readers or the content creators to add anything, but in order to be published, it needs to be verified by that community?
Yes. As I said, Wikipedia can be edited by anybody, just as anybody can read it. I invite anybody to try and add their contribution. And once your change is already there, other editors can also edit it. That's the way we achieve neutral point of view in our articles. because what you see on Wikipedia has already passed through several eyes of our editors, our community volunteers, our administrators. So the final versions that most internauts see is something that has already passed a community review process.
Currently, a lot of universities even allow to quote Wikipedia articles. But exactly like what you're saying, are there professors as well to verifying certain websites? Or can I just open the article and write about anyone, like about any persona, saying that it's true? There is a famous case, I think, from 2000s, that was creating a person, historical person in Wikipedia, and was going all over viral.
Yes, back in the early 2000s, there was an article created on Wikipedia about Henryk Batuta. Henryk Batuta was a made-up person. He was said to be a communist soldier and later political activist. And there was even a street named after him called Batuta in the Warsaw district of Mokotów. However, anybody who comes from Warsaw or lives there knows that it's a very musical district. It has streets named after many different musical articles. This article was a hoax. It lasted, I think, a little less than a year.
Quite a long time.
Quite a long time. However, it was still in the early days of the internet. Wikipedia did not require sources to have back then. However, the Batuta incident changed the way we operated. Now, if you want to add the new information, you are asked to add a source, to provide a source where it comes from. Wikipedia's relationship with universities, as you said, is also quite complicated in the past. Schools did not trust us, universities did not trust Wikipedia. However, recently, schools and universities, elementary schools, have been teaching their students to actually go to Wikipedia to check the sources that we cite, because it is a very good reference site. If you want to learn something more about Warsaw, just go to the Wikipedia article about Warsaw and check the sources that we cite.
And Wikimedia Foundation is also working with the universities itself to make the bigger understanding of the sources as well that are on the Wikipedia. How it's protecting the trust of safety for the users.
We do that twofold. In almost every major country, we have our own affiliate organization registered. In Poland, it's Wikimedia Poland. In Germany, it's Wikimedia Deutschland. Those are local organizations that are run by local communities in this language, and they cooperate with local museums, archives, universities, sometimes even public entities, to spread knowledge about Wikipedia, to explain a bit more how our model works and why we should be trustworthy. The Wikimedia Foundation, which you mentioned, runs Trust and Safety team. It's one of it's a part of the multi-facet way that we act to protect our communities, but also to empower them so they can make moderation decisions on their own.
And how it's protecting trusted sources in the internet, in the Wikipedia, specifically during the elections. We just had the MIGA election year, but still this year it's having a lot of important elections. And we know that influence operations are there to make a vote change. Like the recent example of Romania annulling their presidential elections due to Russian influence.
Every language community governs their own Wikipedia. We have over 300 editions of Wikipedia in many languages, from large global languages like English or French to a small language of Quechua being used by First Nations people in Northern America. And then they themselves make decision on which source is reputable, which source should be trusted, which is safe for the readers to read. Different approach will be taken by volunteers from Poland, which will put more force onto sources that in Polish that know local context. Different will be done on a global context of English Wikipedia, which is read by everybody around the world. We as Wikimedia Foundation and Wikimedia organizations try to work with those local communities to offer them tools to teach them how to best navigate this new sphere of disinformation on the internet. But at the end, there are local volunteers in local language that best know the context, that make decisions about which source to accept, which to not accept, and which are safe to use.
And that's the important thing, to have the trust also in the community and people that are having the values and want to spread the information, hopefully, that are accurate. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's take a look at some key takeaways from a recent report by Poland's Commission to investigate Russian and Belarusian influence.
Poland's Commission on Russian Influence said that Russian and Belarusian disinformation efforts actually work. Why is that? What are their main targets and what are the main takeaways of the report?
So the report is starting from general overview and referring to what has been done in generally, and then we have case scenarios to pinpoint exactly what were the actions. So starting with COVID, where the situation, and we could observe the involvement of those sources in the narrative and the debate over major issues, either it's vaccination or how we could react to this and what are the numbers. I would say that even more interesting example is the question of the migration crisis and the crisis at the eastern border, what we could witness on the ground and then what we could read and what we could see in the debate. A report is referring to malicious actions against authorities, against the politicians.
You've probably heard that there are constant threats from these wild politicians and leaders of Poland. They say, "We will close the border." I can only say, go ahead, but you must first think about how you will communicate with Russia, with China, and with the East as a whole.
The report is referring to the actions that were on the ground, the operation Shluza by the Belarusian authorities, and the narrative around this.
Orchestrated by Belarusian strongman Alexander Lukashenko, Operation Floodgate involves the targeted movement of hundreds of thousands of illegal migrants into the European Union, across the borders of Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. The push comes in response to sanctions imposed by the EU, with the goal of destabilizing the bloc and pressuring its leaders to lift sanctions and recognize the results of Belarus's sham 2020 elections.
The report is also referring to the issue of disinformation on the climate change and energy transformation. Now we are in the time of the Polish presidency in the EU. Disinformation on the climate change is part of the program of the presidencies. Another case is elections. There are 3 examples of 3 elections in Georgia, Moldova and Romania. 2024 was the year of election. So the discussion about the involvement and those countries are definitely within the area of direct interest of Russia. The recommendation from the report is to analyze those cases by the Polish authorities, by the Polish Election Committee, 2025 presidential elections.
Before the internet, we used to look for answers in encyclopedias. But for years now, we've had a platform we can turn to for almost any information we want. Wikipedia is written, edited, and fact-checked by enthusiasts. It's widely seen as a trustworthy and reliable source. Our guest is here to talk about whether we can really believe what we read on Wikipedia and how the community-managed platform has achieved such massive success.
Theodora Skas, CEO, Tech Policy Consulting. Theodora Skas is a public policy professional with 11 years of experience at the intersection of technology, society, and safety. As Chief of Staff of the non-profit Humane Intelligence, she contributes to the development of hands-on, measurable methods of real-time assessments of the social impact of AI models. She chairs the advisory board of All Tech is Human. Previously, at Twitter, she managed the Trust and Safety Council, a research hub, and a Trusted Flaggers program for human rights defenders.
Theodora, thank you so much for joining us straight from New York City. We're talking today about trust and safety, and you've been part of the team on trust and safety at Twitter that been let go by Elon Musk when he took over Twitter. But what exactly have you been doing in the team to protect the internet?
Absolutely. So my role was multifaceted. One of the key roles that I had was facilitating Twitter's Trust and Safety Council, which was Twitter's largest public consultative body. There were advisory groups on digital and human rights, child sexual exploitation, online safety and harassment, and suicide prevention and mental health. I also facilitated a research hub for the public policy team, and I facilitated a trusted flaggers program for human rights defenders and journalists globally. And I supported our global crisis response and transparency efforts to combat mis and disinformation on the platform.
And Twitter was acting to protect the space because I understand that he saw that the harm in the social platform is major.
Exactly. So over the course of many years, since the early 2000s, it's become clear that there are a range of online harms. Initially, trust and safety teams were tackling issues like fraud, spam, and trolling. But then they grew to tackle a whole wide range of issues, including threats to personal and community safety, harms to health and well-being, hate, discrimination, issues around privacy, and also deception and manipulation on platforms.
I always wonder, internet is a bit like Wild Wild West, right? We have some values in the real world when we talk offline, when we see each other face to face. But the internet is the anonymity, right? Twitter specifically is having so many bots, right? There's a major percentage of the bots instead of the human beings, like the real accounts. And right now, there's pretty much no mechanism supporting this.
So I would give a little bit of context there. Twitter allowed for anonymity specifically because there are places in the world where people are posting content that could lead to their incarceration. So for privacy reasons, Twitter enabled anonymity. However, most of the users on Twitter's platform chose to name themselves, in part because they wanted to be directly associated with the contributions that they were making on the platform. Elon Musk, in the months before he took over Twitter, hired a company to look at how many bots were on the account in the ecosystem. And I believe that they found that maybe a little less than 10% of all accounts were bots. So it's not a majority, it's a minority. And it's something that the company was actively working to combat constantly. However, as you know, it's easy to create fake accounts. And so accounts would be taken down once they were identified, but then accounts would come back up. So less than half, actually around 10%, if I remember correctly, based on the study that was done in the spring of 2022, but still an issue.
And there are different ways of research because right now you have such a high development of the new technology that you actually can create fake accounts that are acting as a human, right? Because it depends on whether they click during the night, right? And during the day, what were the main things that you've been looking at while measuring the trust and safety?
Yeah, and I'll note too that artificial intelligence is a supercharging mechanism for fraudulent and artificial activity on social media platforms. So when we look at the traditional ecosystem of artificial activity, I would add that AI complicates everything. But the kinds of work that we did on the platform to combat misinformation included enforcing our misinformation policies. So we had policies around COVID misinformation, crisis misinformation, and civic integrity or election-related misinformation. So we made sure to enforce those policies. We also provided context around critical moments, and we removed violative content. We also could de-amplify content if hashtags were becoming amplified that advanced harmful or inaccurate information. And we also applied labels to state-affiliated media accounts so that readers could know when they were receiving information from an account that was state-affiliated. And then, of course, we fact-checked election results with our partner organization to make sure that candidate labels around election times were accurate. So we took a number of interventions there.
But right now, it's pretty much not happening. X, that is called right now, went out of the code of practice on disinformation, self-regulation in the European Union. Mark Zuckerberg as well has announced that the mechanism of trust and safety will be get rid of from the Meta platforms. What harm can be done there to the users?
Yeah, so I'll start by just highlighting the kinds of changes that have taken place in recent years. So certainly there were very well publicized layoffs that began in the fall of 2022, but continued into 2023 as well. Most of Twitter staff isn't there anymore, maybe 90%, which makes it hard to do the kinds of trust and safety work that the team had been doing previously. There were also policy changes. So for example, the prohibition on misgendering was removed. Accounts that had previously been violative of different policies were reinstated. And then there were very powerfully changes to Twitter's verification process and candidate labels. So now the blue check mark, the verification label, can be purchased by anyone, which means it doesn't have the same authenticity mechanism that it used to have. Safety protections have been changed, and also researcher access to data has been transformed and in particular undermined. This has a huge number of potential and observed ramifications, including limiting resources for marginalized political groups and a reduction in fact-checking and labeling around elections, enabling the spread of election misinformation.
All of this and the changes are in the big saying that is super important in the US, right? So the freedom of speech. But is it really the freedom of speech that is being protected in here?
That's a very significant and I would say controversial question. So freedom of speech in the US means that in any public context, you have the opportunity to say as you wish. However, what we've learned online through experience is that there are certain behaviors that one shouldn't be allowed, right? For example, child sexual exploitative content or content that is terroristic in nature. And then on top of prohibitions like that are very obviously appropriate in online spaces, there are policies that can make spaces more tenable for diverse voices. So for example, prohibitions against hateful conduct and hateful behavior, because those kinds of comments can create unsafe conditions for diverse users. And so it is a debate that is ongoing right now, whether or not people should be able to say whatever they want or whether there should be bounds on what they say. And if so, what those constraints should be. I personally think that some constraints are helpful because they create guardrails that enable the flourishing of diverse content. However, not everyone feels that way.
Well, recently there was a huge case of the French citizen being frauded by Brad Pitt, or what she thought that is. And that's a harm that you can really see in the internet. So the values that we have offline should be also visible online. And I hope that we're going to get there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I 100% agree.
Thank you for joining us. As you see, not everything we see in the social media is true. And perhaps it's worth to think that not every Brad Pitt that is writing to you there is really in love with you. Trust is hard to build, but it's very easy to destroy. We need it to provide us with a sense of safety and to channel our energy into societal improvement rather than self-protection. It's a major part of our lives. The average person spends 143 minutes on social media every day. That's around 2.5 hours scrolling through content on various platforms. It affects our brains, our decisions, and our beliefs. That's why it's up to governments and tech giants to protect that information space. Until next time, keep calm and think deeply.